Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing some one more video on the quick tips sort of side of stuff. This is Battle Axe, Chris McCallum, actually on the YouTube channel. So this quick tip today is now going to be about doublers on the inside of your fuselage. The nice part about what we're doing here is that you'll have two examples of what I'm talking about. So the number one example, this model actually already has it built in where they have a doubler that will strengthen the outside of your fuselage, the sidewalls anyway. And then what I've done is I've actually added a third doubler in there that helps index the power pod, so it slides in and will hit the back skewer hole that holds your power pod in. It'll hit that every time, bang on, center, and it's not going to tear through. And what it also does is it takes the load of impact on your front skewers that actually index and poke through your firewall. So you're not going to find those, breaking right out of your fuselage anymore and having to re-glue those back in. So let's go back over to our workspace over here. What I am working on is a project right now. It was supposed to be kind of a surprise, but this is the FT Sportster. I actually didn't realize how big of a fuselage that this thing is, but look at this thing. It's a monster. Look at how tall that is. I actually built a mini version of this thing, and given at that point in time, my flying wasn't so great, so it actually didn't work out very well for me. Whether it was the model or me, probably had more to do with me. But yeah, it is a pretty big plane. This is the one I'm going to actually replace the Scout with as a winter plane. I'll be putting the floats on this one. Anyway, getting to the doublers and stuff like that, let's just kind of get started and see where we're at. So I'll mount my camera up here. Camera's mounted. Lights are on. So as far as the plans for the fuselage go, this is already cut out obviously from when I built the fuselage to kind of make things a little bit easier, but this is what it's going to look like as far as the plans. Using a speed build kit, you're probably going to need some extra foam for this. Myself, I have never used a speed build kit. I always go off plans. You can see these ones are tiled. As far as tiling plans go, I found the plans that come tiled right from the FT website tend to be a little bit inconsistent from model to model. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't, sometimes they have cut marks, sometimes they don't. What I like to do is I actually download the full-size plans and then open them up in Adobe Acrobat Reader and let those tile and print off there for me. So it ends up, everything seems to be pretty consistent. You might end up using a little bit more paper than using the actual tiled plans from FT, but to tell you the truth, it's really worth it because everything lines up so much nicer. Anyway, as we were talking about with these doublers, one thing I like to do is when I'm actually putting my pod in there, and I've noticed with other planes, if you take a look at this fuselage, like I was talking to you about before, you slide your pod in, you line up, you got to line up your holes. Sometimes you got to reach into your fuselage and like move things around and get it, get the thing in there. Sometimes it's not quite lined up and you end up tearing bigger holes here. A lot of times people will put like plywood or plastic reinforcements, either 1/32 plywood grade, aircraft grade plywood, or even like gift cards with holes cut in them. I've already done that with the doublers that are on the that came in the kit or come with the plans. The doublers that go on the inside. Now what I've done is I've taken this doubler plan, the actual cutout, and I've made myself an indexer. So when I push my power pod in, it actually lines up those holes for me bang on every time, and also takes a shock load. If you take a nose hit, a good nose dive, your prop digs in and it pulls these dowels out. It actually helps alleviate that. And if you're a big fan of somebody who likes to use your pod as a sacrificial lamb, takes all the damage for you, that's great, that's awesome. It'll actually help strengthen up your fuselage a lot better. Some people like to talk about weight penalties and stuff like that. Really, given the size of this plane, it's supposed to run off a CPAC. I'm actually going to try to keep it as light as possible, and really it doesn't really add much more weight than an extra thickness of foam over the span of 7 or 8 square inches, right? So let's just get right to it. I'll show you kind of how my technique in going about it is. What I like to do is I like to take my plans and I'm looking at it. I know this piece right here on the front top section is actually going to fold over as a C fold to help give me my down thrust angle on my power pod. So it does give it a few degrees, right? And that's actually the same thing if you'll see on inside of the fuselage, where it'll actually double over in that C fold, and this is what holds your skewers in, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually kind of line that up, not on the top, but I'm going to go from the side. And if I actually take a look at it from the side, what I'm looking at here is, because I know this is going to be a B fold, that the side cheeks are going to rest up against the side of the top plate is I'm actually going to line this up 3/16 down from the one mark. You get something I can point with here. From the dotted line right here that you actually do your 3/16 cutout to do your B-fold, right? So 3/16 down from there, so it's pretty much double that up. That's where I'm going to put my firewall, is that 3/16 of an inch down. Now, given that, what will happen here is that at the back side, it'll end up being 3/16 down as well. So because your firewall comes up like 3/16, maybe even almost a 1/4 inch up past the top of your power pod, that's what's going to give you your downward thrust angle, of course, right? So if you have plans that don't have doublers that are built into the kit that go in on the side, that's fine. If it's a narrow sort of fuselage, that's exactly what it's going to work out to be. This happens to be doubled up with doublers on the inside, so what will end up happening is I ended up lining it up just with the doubler cutout itself. Now this doubler cutout actually came all the way to the top. This, you can see actually how it kind of fits down here, and it'll actually double up. If you watch the build video, it fits around the wing. This doubler ends up coming right up to the top pretty much, minus that 3/16 where this side cheek goes in where the B-fold happens. What I've done is I've already cut it out, but what you can do, if I'll turn this around, is I'll take that doubler cutout and I'll actually line it up on here where it's supposed to go. This one's pretty lucky. It's got the wing you can kind of like use a reference as is where it sits. This is where your bottom plate actually fits inside, so it gives you kind of like that double inset. And what I've done is I've actually marked on this doubler where the bottom of the power pod meets it at both sides. Now I just put a mark here, put a mark here, take a ruler, have my doubler thing, line up the two marks, give it a line across there, and then at that point, what you're looking at is that's going to be your cut line and where this is going to index everything in. It's basically just a slide that's going to run along the inside, the bottom of your power pod as you slide your power pod in. Now, given that, this is my template. I cut out a couple pieces that are going to work great for the inside of my fuse. Here they are here. Left side, right side. You can look at it however you want, but that's pretty much it right there. So, now that I've cut these out, I've sanded them off. I love the sanding blocks. Those things are great for helping to shape and stuff like that. What I got here now is on the top where the power pod is actually going to slide. If you see how these will fit in here now, where that power pod is going to slide, I don't want this to be crushed. I don't need it because I'm not, once the fuse is closed up, I'm not going to be able to get in there. I don't want it to be delaminating or anything like that. So what I've done is I've actually cut myself a couple strips of poster board that are just about, you know, a 1/4 inch wide by obviously more than the length that I need of the actual doubler itself, or the index doubler, right? So what I'm going to do, take my trusty glue gun right here and give myself just a light little bead just along that top edge where that power pod's going to sit. You don't need a lot, just enough to stick it on there. Go nice and light. It's going to cool down pretty quick, but you still have a little bit of time, not to panic or anything like that. I'll take my little strip of paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it on there, position it so it's ends up at the end, and I'm going to make sure it aligns up all the way down my doubler. Once that's done, I'm going to place it on my table, let it sit down and cool, just like that. I'm going to give it just a little bit of pressure just so it sits evenly, squeezes that glue right into the foam, just like that. One thing I like really about the glass tabletops is they help cool the glue really quick, way more than the wooden tabletops do. And the cool thing is that when you're actually doing cutting of plans or like of the foam board, nothing goes through. If you can actually see the wood underneath, I don't know if you can, you might have a reflection, but I've gouged in there before I put the glass so many different cuts and stuff like that. I've actually had to flip the table around because I got so many cuts in there and stuff. Now I put the glass on there. Even with like glue gloves, when you're actually, you know, placing pieces together, it's really easy to just take like a chisel or like a razor scraper or anything like that, and you can easily just take that off. It doesn't mark up the glass or anything like that, and leaves you with a nice smooth finish after you're done. No replacing it or anything. This glass will last forever, as long as I'm not dropping hammers on it, right? So anyway, I got the second one here. Again,